if I get 10 beats from you, it's really dope if they have like names, if you've actually taken the time to name them instead of like trap beat 0123 dot like wave. That's great. And also if they take the time to put like the BPM, that's like huge, and nobody does it, but it makes such a difference. Yeah, it makes such a difference in terms of how quickly you can import it into your DAW and freestyle and sound good. So if you do those three things, like name it, BPM, and key, I guarantee you your success rate will go up.
Let's be honest, you're not gonna find these videos anywhere else. Why? Because I make them. So it would really help me out if you subscribe. If you've already subscribed, what also really helps is if you like the video and leave a comment. It's hard in the era of clickbait videos on YouTube and negativity in the producer community, and I appreciate your support. Thank you so much. What's going down, everybody? This is DJ Payne One. I'm with two very special guests. And they're two recording artists who both have important perspectives on how we as producers and beat makers sell our beats and market our beats and communicate with our customer base. I'm of the opinion that we as a producer community need to focus more on the needs of the recording artists that we work with, that they are the source of our livelihood. And I do think that a lot of us take them for granted amid all of the memes about, you know, rappers not paying for beats and this and that. I think there's a lot of room for us to grow, and at very least not perpetuate negative cycles, even if we've been wronged in the past by a couple of recording artists. I certainly have. That doesn't make me dislike my two guests today anymore. So let's introduce them. Number one, we got Biddl. He's from my state. He has nearly 2 million TikTok followers. He's been doing a lot as both an artist and a content creator. Beneath him is Tianda. She has over 2 million TikTok likes, which is a hell of a lot. They both have around, well, I think they both surpassed over 1 million total Spotify plays. I know, Tianda, you have a pretty rich history in the music business. What am I missing here? I'm sure I'm missing something about both of you.
Do you want to go first?
No, it's all you. Take it away.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, singer, songwriter, producer. I've been in the business since I was 15 years old, so quite a long time. I got my start on a reality TV show and then kind of did the whole major label cycle. Didn't work out the first time. That really just made me realize the importance of being self-sufficient and learning and doing as much as you can, so that if things don't work out, if people don't want to invest in you, you can invest in yourself. And so that's how I've been approaching my career for the past couple of years since coming back from that experience.
Awesome. Yeah. My story isn't super rich, but I've been doing music since I was like 14, 15. On and off in terms of the level of seriousness. I want to say I started seriously doing music maybe like 5 years ago. Had a viral run of remixes on TikTok, so to speak, that kind of grew my following pretty fast on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. And, now I'm in the point where I'm, transitioning away from that kind of content to just, promoting my original music. So, yeah.
Well, thank you both for taking the time to join and talk to the producer community. So let's just jump right into it. Tianda, you mentioned this. You were signed to a major label early on in your career. Are you completely DIY right now?
Yeah, so I was DIY for the past couple years, doing everything kind of completely on my own. And then just in February of this year, I partnered up with an indie label in Canada named Partners. So we are in the process of working on my first album right now, but it's kind of my first time making an album with full support. And so it's been a really different experience for me.
What were some benefits and drawbacks of being signed to a major?
Well, at the time, like they say that success is when preparation meets opportunity. And unfortunately for me, because I was so young and so inexperienced, opportunity came and I was just not prepared at all. So if you're working with a major label and you can't tell them like, this is what I want, this is what I sound like, this is my message, someone has to make that for you. Someone has to tell you what to say, what to wear, what to do. And so we did that and it didn't work. People were like, we don't like this. The songs flopped and it just wasn't authentic because I wasn't ready for that opportunity. So working with a label now, and an independent one, no less, because I'm more prepared, it's just been a much smoother, easier, more positive experience. But I wouldn't blame the label. That was completely just me not being ready for that experience.
Okay, that's interesting because I think a lot of artists would blame the label. I
Yeah.
think a lot of artists do blame the label, it's probably 50-50 in terms of
Yeah.
whose fault it is. Okay, Biddle. So is being signed to a major one of your goals, or do your goals strictly involve being DIY or staying independent?
Uh, I feel like neither status or whatever really is in my goals. I just have right now income goals, and
Mm.
whatever that entails, so be it, I guess. I do understand to an extent how the major label system works. And then, to get a favorable deal, you have to have significant amount of leverage. So, for those reasons, I don't really foresee myself signing anytime soon. I really do just want to continue this journey and, building leverage and just building what I have independently. And I'm still trying to, like, as long as I've been doing music, I'm still, finding myself and figuring out like who I am and who I want to be. And I want to have, all that stuff, all those ducks in a row before I want to put, some kind of machine behind it for sure.
I'm sure you've seen this narrative being pushed, which is that there's just no money in the music business, especially for recording artists, especially for people like the two of you. Um, you both are working musicians. What's the truth behind that? Where is the money coming from? Obviously, you have to be a little more innovative than just putting music on Spotify and counting millions of dollars. What does that look like in reality and in practice?
Yeah, I mean, in reality, right now there's more money than ever. And right now, a higher percentage of it than ever before is going to indies. So the people who say that, I would challenge them to broaden their perspective on where money should come from. Because a lot of people think like, I just want to make the music I want to make all day, and then I want to put that out and I want to make money off of it. And then I want all of that money to belong to me. And that's probably not reality for most people. So if that's what you're expecting, then I can understand why there's no money in the music industry for you. For myself, it's been a matter of just, and I've heard you talk about this a lot, having a bunch of different smaller income streams that pay the bills. At first, it was like a little tiny bit from streaming, and then there was sync. So I work with like getting my music in ads and commercials, etc. And some of these are songs I've never released that people will never hear, but they just kind of are a catalog that works in the background for me. I've made money doing top lining, selling vocals, selling acapellas. And then I've also been paid to work with major labels for songwriting projects. Like I recently worked on Songhouse Live, which was a really fun thing to do. So just kind of being open-minded and looking for any opportunities that come your way. Even recently, helping other artists on TikTok has been an income stream for me. So just being creative and hopefully more of that will shift to music and just my music in the future. But for now, it's still super fun.
Yeah, that's you kind of touched everything for the most part. There's so many different income streams. Like, I mean, there's streaming, and then there's, multiple strategies on like how to grow that. I would implore people to take a look at Russ, his interviews and how you go about building that up. But it's essentially just making a bunch of music and then making content to, promote that, running ads and, doing what you want to do. But I mean, there's, sync placements. Those are massive. Something that Tianda mentioned. I mean, man, there's so many different things you can sell. Like, once you start to build, I don't even know if you have to necessarily have a big brand, but, there's courses, education, e-learning is huge right now. You can literally learn anything under the sun if you just either, hop on YouTube, or if you want to dive a little deeper, going into somebody's, course, ebook, what have you. Like selling, like Tianda said, vocal samples, or, like if you know how to engineer, mix and master your own stuff, that's a method of, making income too. If you do have a bigger brand, you're starting to grow one, brand deals, brand partnerships, is a really huge way you can make money. There are a lot of income streams out there. And, like Tianda was saying, I think, a lot of artists are stuck on or only know of one or two different income streams. And, once they hear that, Spotify pays like a sliver of a penny per stream, they're just like, oh, there's no money. Like, this is pointless. What am I doing? But when you really dive into it and you speak to people that are making money, you learn very quickly that, this is attainable and I can make a living like doing music. You just have to diversify your income.
Yeah, I feel like if we zoom out on the whole picture of making money in the music industry, on the one hand you have music, and that's one umbrella, and everything that comes with that. On the other hand, you have community, which is, I'd say, the new word for fan base, simply because 20 years ago you couldn't interact with your favorite artist. You couldn't really create authentic community in the way that you can now with social media, and you can monetize a community in a million different ways. So let's jump right into the core purpose of this conversation. How do the two of you find instrumentals and productions for your music?
Yeah, I mean, when I started, I didn't know how to produce at all. Like 3 years ago, couldn't even use GarageBand. And so in the beginning, I was like, well, I need to find producers. And then I realized very quickly, well, producers aren't really jumping to work with you when you have no songs out and no track record. So naturally, I was like, hey, work with me. And people were like, not really down. So I was like, okay, I need to flip this if I'm going to be able to create a team around me. So what I did instead was I started this thing on my Instagram. I had 1,000 followers at the time called Loop Challenge, where I would say any producer of any skill level, any genre can send me any like dusty old beat that they've abandoned on their hard drive. And every Friday, I'll write as many songs as I can and post them on social media and hopefully start connecting artists with producers who make beats they like. And I started doing that and it started growing pretty quickly. And suddenly all these producers were sharing my songs with each other. And I started generating like this base of producers on my Instagram who were like asking to work with me for free and for splits. And that's really how I got started, was just like working with the people who were excited about me. And then the past couple of years, I just made it a really big goal of mine to become self-sufficient and learn how to produce on my own, because ultimately I want to be able to, the Russ method, release as many songs as possible. But in the beginning, it was just a matter of like, show up, show what my strengths are, see who's excited and work with them. And then also sometimes finding cool people on YouTube who make great beats, because there's just an endless sea of great beats on there too that aren't discovered yet.
See, I was a lot less innovative and I just started on YouTube. And once I subscribed to several producers and, you go down to the description, see where their beat store is, and you find out that, you start seeing beatstars.com/. I'm like, oh, maybe like, what is BeatStars? And you get on BeatStars, see that it's like the ultimate marketplace for beats. So I was like, oh, I bet I can just, instead of looking through a bunch of YouTube videos, I can look at something that's a little more curated and just hop on BeatStars and look for beats. So that's really what I used to begin with primarily, and kind of what I still do for the most part. I want to say like maybe 30 to 40% is producers that I have connected with, like since going viral on TikTok and everything, that, send me stuff or like we'll, work together to produce something, together. There's like a small percentage of songs that I've dropped that I made, that I produced. And I'm looking to like grow that percentage and, while I practice behind the scenes. But that's pretty much the majority of, how things go right now.
This is a tough question, and I'm glad I don't have to answer it. What makes a good beat to you?
To me, my ultimate test of like is this good? Is this beat good necessarily? It's like, is this beat a fit for me? The ultimate test is I play it either the first time, like 60% of the song comes out of my mouth in a freestyle, or it doesn't. And then I just get no ideas for that beat. And a lot of the time, the reason ideas come or don't come comes down to how much of this space is already filled by things. A lot of the times I get sent beats from producers and I'm like, you've done it. You've made the song. There are 3 different lead melodies. There are, 6 different synths in this. You don't need a top line on this. And then sometimes I'll get a producer sending me a beat that has a guitar loop and a kick and a snare, and I'll write 3 songs to it. And I'm like, this is a big vibe. And it just comes down to, did they leave space for me to be creative? And then was it inspiring?
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything you said on that aspect. The only thing that I would add, so like that's it has to pass 2 checks. That's how it passes my check as well. And then I'll have my wife listen to it. And
Yeah.
she's just, I don't know, she just has a sixth sense about these things. And if she likes the beat, I'm like, all right, bet this is something that'll go for sure. So that's kind of how I go about it.
I feel like that's the secret weapon. Not all of us have wives though. So obviously you reject more beats than you actually write songs to or purchase. You have to be selective. In terms of the mix, the sonics of a beat, how do you prefer the beats to be mixed?
I personally don't care because anytime I'm buying a beat, I'm getting the stems anyways. I'm going to have someone else mix it in the end. And so if I like the bones of your beat, whether or not the quality is pristine doesn't really matter to me. It's like, are the ideas good? And can this be used? Can it be, turned into a full song? So sometimes people will send me like an 8-bar loop as a beat and I'll just write a whole song to that. And I don't really care too much about it sounding finished right away.
Yeah, I will say that if the mix doesn't sound good, it's kind of hard for me to like fill in like the missing part. So like if something, like if there was a good beat, but it was mixed horribly, I don't think I'm at the point where I'm like, oh, there's potential here, but this is just terrible. Like it has to hit me a certain way.
If it's so bad that it like distracts you, then it's
yeah. But going on that, in terms of how it's mixed, I think it just depends on like what the beat calls for, what instruments are being used, and what the main focal point is. Like sometimes the percussion and the kicks and the 808, that's like the main driver of the beat. So I want that to stand out. I want the kick to punch. I want the 808 I want to feel it in my soul. You know what I mean? But, sometimes it's like a guitar lick or it's like a crazy synth in the background. So I want to make sure that the other elements surrounding that, support that main driver, so it kind of just depends on whatever the driver is and what, if I don't have direct contact with the producer, I try to, do my best to guess based on however they mixed it, what they saw the main driving force being, and then just kind of mixing around that.
Yeah, because I know a lot of producers are afraid to even put their beats out for sale because they don't think they have the perfect mix. You're saying, don't worry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's how I feel. Like if you're sending packs to me anyways, speaking for myself, I don't really listen for that right away because I have all the capabilities to change anything mix wise that I don't like. Yeah,
same. Like it doesn't have, I mean, it's not going to be that way anyway. That's not how we're mixing it. Like the master, like when artists do or producers do master the beats, like it gives us a good perspective and a good picture of how they want the end product to sound. But as long as the mix isn't so terrible that it's taking away from what you made, whatever, it's all good.
Okay, cool. Another question. I know, Tianda, you kind of addressed this already. How do you prefer your beats to be sequenced? Do you care? Does it matter? Does a sequence catch you as much as a melodic idea?
I like writing to both. I really like when people send me like 8-bar loops, 4-bar loops, because then I'm not committed to following any certain structure. Especially if it's a producer who some producers like their beats to stay very intact. They don't like when people customize them that much. So in those cases, it can make it harder to write sometimes. I also do like a fully structured beat because then I can just catch a wave and like sometimes get all the sections in a freestyle. So I'm open to both, but I really like loops and I like when producers are open to like collaborating on it and potentially customizing it later down the line too.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I don't really mind if it's completely structured. Like I'll just fill in the blanks. But sometimes, like those loops, if the loop is dope enough, like my brain will kind of just it'll start sequencing the beat first of all, like in my head, and then the words just kind of come, and then the sequence kind of comes afterwards. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, because that's another point of insecurity for for producers who are just starting to put their beats out. How do I see? So there's just in the producer world, there's a lot of obsessing over detail before we release the beats. And I
Artists too.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think that ultimately, probably the more we obsess over our final product, the worse the product gets, and the less likely we're even going to release it.
Yes.
And we start second guessing and changing stuff at the last minute, and then it doesn't become it strays away from our original vision, which is like, if it caught us, it's going to catch other people. But if we start second guessing that vision and changing it, then you stray away from that natural vibe that you created initially. Okay, let's get into some more hard questions. What are some reasonable prices for beats? Obviously, that's a big question because there are leases, exclusives, customs, etc. So what strikes you specifically for your situations as ideal prices for beats?
Man, that's such a hard question. A lot of the times when I buy beats, I buy the track out, even if it's not exclusive. I like to have all the stems. So like, you pay a few $100s for that at least, and I think that's such an easy yes for me. I've had producers that I've reached out to on YouTube who have like no followers, like maybe 500 followers across platforms, and I've just really liked their stuff. And I'm like, yo, how much would it cost for me to have this beat and you not sell it to anyone else? And they've been like, $1,000, $2,000, and to me, like, for exclusive rights, that's an easy yes as well. I also am in a situation where I have access to things like grant funding because I'm in Canada. So I have, budget and support to do that. I know for a lot of artists, that's like a very easy no. But for my situation, like, all of those prices are super fair to me.
Everybody live in Canada these days. It's crazy. I keep
Shout out to Canada for the grant funding. Damn.
I swear, like, that's the 5th time I've heard about that this month. Like, that's man, shout out Canada. But yeah, I think we think along the same lines. Early on when I did buy a beat, it was like the very bare minimum, lease or whatever. But like, once I started to make a little more money, got more familiar with the mix master process, you realize and understand how important trackouts are. So in terms of trackouts, the trackout fee option, I mean, I've seen it as low as like $99 and as high as like, $300-$400. And then exclusives, I haven't been able to get a hold of anybody to buy exclusives, which is really weird. Like, I'll send an initial offer. Like, I've sent initial offers of like 1,000, 1,500 and like no response. And I'm just like, did I offend you? Like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. But
no, hold on. Pause. Because producers, we need to talk about this. And please, when I was on tour with Dame, and Kato actually was the first MEC tour, we asked the question of all the recording artists in the crowd. And the question was, what is your biggest complaint with working with producers? And it was always that they were not responsive.
Oh.
Is that Biddl, you're saying that's how it is, Tianda? Is that something you experience, producers just not getting back to you?
I've never experienced that, but I would also wonder, like, how big the producers are that you're reaching out versus like maybe how big the ones that I reach out to are, because I find some people in the corner of the internet that like their DMs aren't full. You know what I mean? No, I've never had that problem really, but I also don't reach out to people very often. It's quite rare that I do. So my sample size is probably pretty small.
Yeah, I haven't. I mean, I think there's 3 separate occasions where three separate occasions where I reached out for an exclusive via BeatStars, and then like I try to hit them up on a different, so like basically Instagram, Twitter sometimes, and no response. But I don't know if that's I wouldn't say that's like the biggest hang up just because it's only happened like 3 times. But and luckily, like, I haven't had a song like blow up into the like millions of streams to like where I need the exclusive right now. Like, bro, like, I need this. But I hope that, when one of my songs does get to that point, that the producer that made that song, if it's from someone else, a third party, that I'm able to connect with them so that, you can fully use, the song.
Yeah, and it could be any number of reasons. Knowing producers, we're weirdos. It could just be that we're apprehensive about negotiating.
Yeah.
It could just be that we don't feel prepared enough in terms of our music business knowledge to even sell an exclusive license. Or it could just be that we're not seeing it. Or we're like, well, they can't afford us. because a lot of producers, a lot of producers, you know, you hear somewhere on some internet forum that Dr. Dre gets, you know, $500,000 for beats, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm trying to get that. And then the worst thing is, it's probably worse because like the two of you are verified on various platforms, so they probably are like, okay, well they're rich. Yeah, I'll 50,000.
I think a lot of producers feel like because they sell the small leases all the time, like $30, $50, whatever. When someone asks for an exclusive, a lot of the times they think, well, I'm going to miss out on all this income if I sell you the exclusive. So the only way I could sell you the exclusive is if I charge you like $2,000 for it. And then they might not feel confident asking for that much money because they don't have the clout or like the following to feel like they deserve it. And I think people underestimate like people's willingness to pay that. Like a lot of people do think that's worth it. And so I think it's a confidence thing too, probably.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That's a great point. And you know, you never know until you try. Also, a negotiation should be a negotiation. It shouldn't be an argument. It shouldn't be a fight, and it shouldn't be a deal breaker per se. It should be a discussion. So I know I used to not be as willing to have those conversations, which was silly. Really silly of me, because I probably missed out on a lot of networking with artists. Now, yeah, we can have whatever conversation, even if you know, I get offensive offers sometimes, or what I would consider offensive offer, but why get offended about it? It's, you don't know me, it's not personal. So I just kind of have the conversation, and if we can't see eye to eye, then we don't. You know, I'll try my hardest to find some kind of compromise, but yeah, sometimes you can't compromise, and I think that's fine. Speaking of compromising, how do you deal with splits? So let's specifically talk about splits on the master end. What are your policies for splitting with the people that produce the beats?
It really comes down to situation by situation basis. Like anything that I've made through like Instagram where it's just like collabs and neither of us are paying each other, but we're just making it together. They're giving me their beat for free, for example, and I'm releasing it either for sync or as an official release. I typically do 50-50. I know that a lot of people don't feel like you automatically should have to do that, but I like to do that for those situations. In situations where I'm fully paying you out, potentially, you know, up to thousands of dollars to make a song for me, I like to own as much of the master as I possibly can. So if the producer says you have to buy me out and give me points on the master, then that's something I'll negotiate if that's their policy. But I typically will lean towards like a full buyout situation in those cases if possible, to own as much of the master as I can.
Yeah, that's how I was thinking for the exclusive negotiations that I never got to. But in terms of situations where, you know, like where I'm collabing, it's just usually an easy thing to just do 50-50. So.
And then how do you deal with it on the underlying composition side?
Do you mean like the different types of royalties? I'm not sure I understand.
Like publishing?
Publishing, yeah. Well,
usually the same.
You know, same thing.
Usually the same approach.
Yeah, same. 50-50.
Do a lot of producers reach out to you, either of you, to try to sell beats to you at this point in your careers?
I get a lot of beats. A lot of people who reach out to me aren't necessarily trying to sell them. A lot of them are just trying to get them placed and then like move off of splits. I do get a few people reaching out and just like trying to cold sell me things. Like they'll ask if they can send me a beat pack, and then they'll just like have the terms in the beat pack that say like the prices and whatever. So they don't directly try to sell, but it's definitely an attempt. But I would say more of the people who reach out to me are trying to build like genuine relationships and find artists to work with on a recurring basis and like grow together.
Yeah, maybe something's wrong with my branding, because all I get is a bunch of spam. So yeah, it's usually spam. When I do check it out, it's usually not good. Well, 10 times out of 10, it's not good. I'm keeping it 1,000. So like, yeah, I don't know. I've the producers that I have collaborated with, I'm trying to remember. They like connected with me on TikTok. They'd say, you know, they comment on something. They or comment on multiple things, and then finally hit me up and say, man, I love your stuff. I'd love to send you a, but like that happened a little early on. So like we have though like a year and a half's worth of relationship established. But yeah, like once or twice a week I'll get, spam, and I'm just
Once or
hoping
twice a
that
week,
one of
that's
them
it?
are good. Yeah.
I get people trying to sell me beats every day. What am I doing wrong? I'm a producer.
That's crazy.
Yikes. Okay, so then we probably touched on a couple of these, but what are some do's and don'ts for producers who want to approach artists and either send them beats and work out a partnership or sell them beats?
My like number one golden rule is like never let the first time you talk to somebody be you asking them for something in any sort of capacity. Don't ever slide into a stranger's DMs and say, hey, check out my music. Hey, we should work. Hey, you should jump on a song with me. It's like an instant trigger for most serious artists and producers.
That's 99% of all DMs.
It's so annoying.
Literally.
It's like you would never walk up to the street to someone and just ask them for something, but you will on the internet, which is so weird. My golden rule is like, if you're going to go out of your way to slide into someone's DMs, you better be offering them something. You better be offering them value. If you want to offer them a collab, offer the collab. Don't say we should work. Let's work, let's build. Slide in my DMs and say, hey, like, I would love to send you beats anytime if you're interested. This is the type I make. Just say the word and then leave that door open, but don't try to force them through the door, if you know what I mean.
Or to like increase your success rate, like be familiar somewhat with the artist and just their style. You know what I mean? And this goes both ways too. Like if you want to work with some producer, like be familiar with the kind of beats that they make before you reach out. But like, since we're talking, producer to artist, like, I'll have people send me stuff and it'll be like, I don't know, like Yeet, Lil Uzi, Playboy Cardi type stuff. And I'm like, these are pretty decent, but like, I don't make this kind of music. Like this is not going to work, So, just be familiar with I think it's like a general networking rule is just to have some familiarity with who you're reaching out to so that, one, it signals that to them that, oh, like this person actually cares and wants to build with me and isn't just sending blanket, messages out to everybody. So.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because especially with you, Tianda, like a lot of, there are very few producers who I think make the eclectic pop genre. And I guess that's maybe where I would categorize you. I don't know if that's fair.
Yeah.
But do you get a ton of, Cardi B type beats and like just stuff that Tyga beats and whatnot sent to you? It's
a mix. I get a lot of people asking me like, hey, do you have any acapellas I can produce? Do you have any songs you've already written that I can work on? Which I love. I also get a lot of people, they'll slide in my DMs and say, hey, kind of like my bio says, when I find my sound, I'll let you know. So it's very hard for producers to know what it is. So people will ask, they'll be like, hey, what type of beats are you looking for right now? And then people do send me like all sorts of random like Cardi B beats. I get country and some instrumentals sometimes, but that is because I put that offer out there. Like send me anything of any genre. I don't care. So people are really just giving me what I've asked for over the years.
Okay, so that's not a point of contention then.
No, I would say my biggest point of contention with people sending me beat packs is they don't put care and attention into them in terms of like the just etiquette. Like, for example, if I get 10 beats from you, it's really dope if they have like names, if you've actually taken the time to name them instead of like trap beat 0123 dot like wave. That's great. And also if they take the time to put like the BPM, that's like huge, and nobody does it, but it makes such a difference. Yeah, it makes such a difference in terms of how quickly you can import it into your DAW and freestyle and sound good. So if you do those three things, like name it, BPM, and key, I guarantee you your success rate will go up.
That's I need to clip that part that's going in the intro. What other marketing mistakes do you see producers making?
I would say just like not marketing at all is the biggest mistake that producers make. Like they get so intimidated by even just making a video of them playing their beat and putting it on TikTok, or they assume that no one's going to like it or it's not mixed well enough, so I shouldn't do it. When in reality, there are so many artists who need producers and who need beats who will like their music. So I would say the biggest marketing mistake is just thinking that you can't do it or choosing not to.
Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot who I heard it from. Maybe it was my guy Corey the Savior. He's a music marketer. They said that artists spend so much time making the music and so little time on promoting the music that, you know, like they hold near and dear to their hearts. And I feel like that's huge. Like you spent all this time and you're so proud of this song, of this beat, but like you're doing the bare minimum to tell people about it. And it's like, what are you doing, bro? Like get creative, like put that same energy that you had in the creative process, like in the marketing. You want people to hear it just as much as you love it. So like, why does that not translate over to the marketing and the promotion?
So let's say you're a producer and you're networking with artists and you're, you know, having some success. What would be some great ways for them to add value for their customers?
I think a really great way that like because I'm a producer myself, for me, it adds a lot of value when the producer is super collaborative and they're willing to go back and forth on things and they're willing to customize things or send me stems that are like dry, go back and forth on the vocals, like whatever. Like if I'm going to actually build with the producer, it's a huge value add to feel like they want to be involved and that they care and they want to create something together versus like sending me a beat and being like, go do whatever you want with it and let me know when it's done. I don't expect that because that's not really what the beat transaction is. But if someone's actually trying to build with me, I love when they like to get involved that way.
Yeah, I don't know if like the rise of licensing and BeatStars made it a little less, made the process made producers a little more detached from the process. And if they just care more about selling off licenses than they do the songs and the products that come from it. I've heard some producers talk about like playing the licensing game versus like getting placements and like working with specific artists, being in more control of like who's on their instrumentation. So, but I think in terms of like adding value, like, you know, to me in my process, I feel like rappers, myself included, like often fantasize about like the Drake 40 relationship and like how that would just be amazing, having a producer that a go-to producer that you can work with, that knows you, that knows your sound, knows your strengths, and can produce to like play on those strengths. But I don't know. I feel like I don't encounter a lot of producers that want to do that for whatever reason, you know, whatever their motivations are, their passions. But yeah, and I do know, and I have talked to a lot of different, at least like rappers, that they would love something like that. It's just a matter of finding the person that is willing and is as passionate to do something like that.
It feels a lot like dating in that you can't force it either. It's like if you work with enough people and eventually people get excited about each other and that relationship happens naturally. But if a producer or an artist tries to like force it on each other, it's like, no, like big no. I would also say like a huge value add that I forgot about that you kind of sparked in my brain as you were talking is I've had 2 producers that I've collabed with in the past on songs. And when we've gotten to the point where we're releasing the song, they did a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of making videos for it, making visuals for it, marketing it with their creativity, showing the instrumental process, beat breakdowns, all of that stuff. And that did translate into the songs going further than they would have if I just promoted them on my own. So that's a huge sign too that a producer really cares about what they've created, is do they actually try to push it with you afterwards?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Those are all good ideas. So let's talk more about your careers. How long did it take both of you to build, these pretty substantial online followings?
For me, it took 2 years. But I would say I only got serious about TikTok in the last like year and a half.
Yeah, I want to say about that too. Though I've been making music on and off for like the last like 14, 15. When I got really serious, like back in 2018, so when I dropped my first project. In 2020, I went viral. So yeah, about 2 years.
Okay. What were some of the most useful strategies that you employed that brought people to your brand?
I wouldn't even call it a strategy. I think it's just like how I express myself is number one, my social media is just an extension of me. So sometimes I sing on my social media and sometimes I post my random thoughts I have during the day. And sometimes I talk to people about things that are important to me. And I've just allowed myself this space to express myself without trying to make it a brand or without trying to market myself, essentially. And my other golden rule is like, just like real relationships on your social media, you can't create a following by just asking for things all the time. You see a lot of artists and producers just on TikTok constantly asking for pre-saves, asking for streams, asking for follows. People don't really positively engage with that. People want to feel like you're adding value to their lives. So I always say, like, if you're going to ask for something, try to give at least 3 or 4 times every time you have one ask, and make sure that your social media is always what you're giving people and not just what you're trying to get from them all the time.
Yeah, no, those are really good points. There's me being a really analytical person, especially like when TikTok came out, it was a lot of just studying the landscape of, what was going on social media, what voices are being used in terms of like how people are presenting content, right? Is it more in a skit based demonstration? Is it more like just jumping into the live performance? Like what are people doing? What's hitting with people? And that's kind of like a constant evaluation and reevaluation process because trends, come and go. So that's something that you want to just keep your pulse on. But like Tianda was saying, you can manufacture a brand, but I guess it kind of just depends on what your end goal is, right? Like, I don't know if you think about, Nicki Minaj, like, I don't want to say that she like manufactured her brand or anything, but at least in the early days, like the whole Barbie thing, like she kind of took that, like, that's not all like her 100%. Some of it is, kind of hyperbole. But I say like whatever you decide on, or I guess if you're testing, throwing a bunch of things at the wall and seeing what sticks, kind of looking at what people engage with the most about your brand, or what kind of posts people engage with, and then lean into that. And then to control, I guess, the direction, don't test anything that you wouldn't want to build out. So, that kind of go like, if I don't know if you're not really a big fan of cooking like that, but you just randomly, made a cooking video, like you're kind of screwed if people like that. Cause now, people have let you know that they want more of it and you don't want to. And that's kind of how people get in these ruts of, I don't know, I guess, just being upset or, whatever. But yeah, I think just ultimately just being genuine in what you create is, a great start. Being genuine and being consistent, getting your mindset right. I think Russ's book is a really good read for people that are going the independent route, that need that mindset preparation, because this whole grind is it can be very grueling. And you never know, when it could pop or when things could change for you. It could be a year into it. It could be 5 years into it. So you just have to be, it sounds cliche, but like, you just have to enjoy the journey and enjoy what you're doing. Cause that's what's going to give you the mental fortitude to keep going. So.
Okay. Do you have teams, especially you, Tiana, with regard to your visual branding? Is that you doing the photoshops with all the hairless cats, or you have a dedicated? Because
Yeah,
that's a
no,
theme
I do.
that comes up, the hairless cats.
Yeah, I mean, nature is a really big part of my brand, and that's going to come out a lot more in the music that I'm releasing in the future. But in terms of visually, no, I do all of that myself. I do all my content myself, my strategy myself. My team right now is waiting for me to give them music that they can help me push. But until I do that, I'm very much like on my own, and that's how I like to operate. I learned Photoshop from YouTube. Me and I live in a building a few doors down. I have a guy that we just bought a camera together, and we decided to learn all this stuff, and we've been taking our own photos in our apartments, and I do what I can to Photoshop myself and make it look like I'm not from Edmonton, because it's not the coolest city. So yeah, it's very much a DIY effort.
Dope. Yeah. I wouldn't say I have like a dedicated like team. It is mostly me. I do, like, I guess you can call it outsourcing, or there's like one-off, getting a beat from a producer, or I don't know if I'm having time struggling with a mix or something, sending it to an engineer that I trust. But yeah, in terms of, content, music creation, it's really all me.
What are you excited for in 2022 in terms of your projects?
I'm really excited to release music that I feel like actually represents me. And I know that like that's just an artist cliche at this point, is everyone's waiting for that like miraculous project that is finally their magnum opus. And I don't think it's that by any means, but I will say that my first 2 years of releasing music, it was very much me learning how to produce, me learning how to write songs, and then me forcing myself through the release process, because I knew that was something I had to experience and grow in order to properly support an album I'm really proud of. My only goal for the past 2 years has been to have songs that when I play them for my friends in the car, I'm actually excited to do that. And for the first time, I feel like I have songs that I'm excited to play for my friends in the car, and they actually feel like I've captured myself and put that in music. And so I'm excited to release that into the world, and let the world accept that however it wants to.
That's dope. Yeah, I have a similar goal in that, like, I think at the beginning of this year, the very end of last year, I was listening to my catalog and I was like, man, there's really only like 2 songs in here that I really mess with, that I can like listen to over and over again. And I think a lot of it has to do with me just getting better as an artist and as an engineer. So I was like, all right, well, my goal this year, like, the overarching goal is to update my catalog with stuff that I can listen to over and over and not like cringe at the way I compress the vocal, or, something like that. But I think in terms of excitement, I talked about being analytical a little earlier, and like 14, 15 years into this thing, I just like literally, I want to say a few weeks ago, got to the point where I can finish songs in one sitting and like not overanalyze things. I'm now like, I just finished a song yesterday in like an hour or something, and I'm like, oh, this is what it feels like to finish music, like, and I've seen these rapper interviews, people talking about like, yeah, I knocked that out in like 30 minutes or like 2 hours, and I'm like, how? Like, what? Or, a lot of the songs, like I'll hear that artist say that and I'm like, well, it kind of sounded like you did it in 15 minutes. But like other artists like that I really revere, they'll say like the same thing. They'll say they knock out, 3 to 5 songs in a night. And I'm like, man, how? And it's just tapping into this mindset where you're just like completely uninhibited. You're going off of feeling instead of like overthinking everything. So I'm really excited to just develop that, harness that, stay in that mindset, because I definitely don't want to revert back to putting out having a bunch of unreleased or not unreleased but unfinished projects in my hard drive. That's the most frustrating thing on the planet. So
well, cool. I really appreciate both of you sharing all this insight. Final question is, how can people follow you on social media, check your music out, and stay up to date on everything you have going on?
Yeah, Tiandaland on everything. So come say what's up. Also really active Discord. So if you want more just like one-on-one support from my community, come hang with us, and Tianda on streaming platforms as well.
Dope. Yeah. And same here. Biddl, Biddl3. Don't forget the 3, the number 3. That's on everything, all streaming platforms, Instagram, TikTok. It's Biddl Music, but if you type in Biddl, you'll see me. So
Appreciate you so much. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that perspective. I think a lot of times we as producers get wrapped up in the echo chamber within the producer community, and we don't really branch out and ask what we could be doing better from the very people we're working with and building relationships with and selling beats to. So this is much appreciated, and it's always illuminating. Thank you so much.